We haven't recorded or seen each other since when?
Oh God, it's been a while.
Like the beginning
Maybe
of
very
November?
early. Uh, mm, yeah, somewhere around there.
Whenever Elon Musk, what was he threatening to shut it down? This is how long it's been. I don't even remember what the issue was. And we did a whole episode about it.
We did an episode on people going to Mastodon, like wanting to go to
Okay.
Mastodon. But then I think after that there was the threat of like breaking any links that or not allowing any links that people link to outside social sites and things like that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, we're not going to do, we've given Twitter enough
yeah,
of our energy.
yeah.
We have a lot of catching up to do. Since, I mean, we've texted, but haven't really had like a proper conversation.
Hmm.
I thought that what if we just got caught up with each other and got caught up with our audience? And I will ask you three questions and we can both answer them. And you could ask me three questions that we can
Okay,
both answer.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
Do you need any time? Do you need to get water? Anything you need to do to like prep for this?
Oh no, I'm always ready to go. I'm I'm good.
All you have to do is put on a gray shirt and sit in front of your gray background,
That's
and
it. Turn my camera on and turn my mic on and roll. So
you're
I'm good.
really, you've been embracing this like minimal
Yeah.
lifestyle now. Before it was cool.
Before it was cool,
Yeah,
and now it's just like I feel like I'm a leader of that movement.
you really are.
I had a friend of mine ask me the other day if somebody offered you $400 to wear like tangerine colored pants, would you do it? And I went, in public? And they were like, yes, like to work. And I was like, no, will
No,
not take the
that
money.
would ruin your
Nope,
entire reputation. You
nope,
definitely couldn't do that.
nope. Stays in this mix of gray, black, and navy somewhere in that ballpark.
Navy is like when you're feeling a little rambunctious.
Frisky. Yeah. But I'm feeling good.
All right, so if you're ready, I'll start with a softball. Tell me, what is the best thing that you ate over or it could be since we talked or we recorded last, but I was thinking more like over the holidays.
There was a lot. It's the holidays, so for me it was cookie based. So we were sick. My whole family was sick off and on throughout the holidays, so we didn't get to bake as much as we usually do. I made these butter cookies that have always been in our family because I have to do it. It's just one of those things. But we usually make like two or three different kinds, and we just didn't have the time this year with everything going on. So the Friday before Christmas, I had gone to this bakery that's in Schenectady, in a city right next to the town that I live in, and picked up some necessities, things that I was using, and we usually make you'll know these, I'm sure. You know, people listening to these know these, but they're called Jeanettes. They're like the ricotta cookies, same kind of style, but it has like the orange extract or the lemon extract, and you know the glaze on top with the sprinkles. And okay, we usually make those every year, and we just didn't have time to make them this year, so I stopped at the bakery, and I was not intending to get cookies. I was actually going there to get, they have deli meats and breads and things like that. And just so I had everything that I need, breadsticks and whatnot. And as I was like walking around the corner, it's a really small building. They had a little display of Jeanette's, and I was like, oh, my wife loves them. And I'm like, I should get like just a couple. That way we can say we had them and whatnot. They were the best Jeanette's I've ever eaten in my life. Like they were phenomenal. I could not put them down. So I would say those Jeanette's were probably the best. I mean, a lot of good food, but that was like the thing that like I was eating like two or three at a time. And that's usually not like my thing with cookies. I'm usually pretty like paced out with them. Yeah. But I was pounding those.
Did you like them enough that you are now thinking about the next time you go back there and
Oh
hoping
no,
that they'll
no, I
have
can't
them?
do that. That's a sin in this house. I can't retire Rachel's cookies. But I'll say it's nice to know that there's an alternative. Like if there's an office party or what, I can get my fix without super taking over what we've had here over the years. What about you?
This is like a really hard question to answer because over the holidays got to have so many good treats and good drinks too.
Hmm.
But I think the best thing I had and the most special thing I had was Jimmy and I went to New York City for a couple days before Christmas. And the first night we got there, it was just us. And we went to this restaurant called Maria. And it was great because we got there early and there was like no one there. We went and sat at the bar. And I ordered these, they called it ravioli, but I just would describe it more as like tortellini. They make all their own pasta there, and it was in this great pesto sauce. And the bartender said, like, I ordered it, and he was like, "Oh, do you want the half portion or the full portion?" I'm like, "Definitely the full portion." And I ate all but like two of them. And I think that he was, I mean, I try really hard to like completely finish it, but they were filling, they were delicious. And the best part of the meal was, and this is why I love sitting up at the bars because you hear stories like this. The bartender was telling us that Paul McCartney was at this restaurant the day before. And this restaurant is known mostly for seafood and for their homemade pastas. And Paul McCartney said, "I'll have eggplant parmesan."
Oh,
No eggplant on the menu. So the server, of course, because it was Sir Paul McCartney, was just like, "Sure." And he talked to the chef, and the chef was like, "For Paul McCartney? Sure." And they didn't say this, but Jimmy was like, they definitely had to like run to Whole Foods to get eggplant. There is not eggplant listed anywhere on the menu, but I
that's
thought
a
that
great
was,
story.
yeah, I thought that was great. And sadly, I missed him by a day. That would have been
That would have been,
incredible.
right? Yeah. Then what if you would have followed up and been like, "I'll have what he's having."
Yeah. Oh,
Right. And then they would have been
like
like,
while you're making it,
yeah,
I like eggplant parm.
yeah. It would have been like, "You'll get the raviolis and you'll like it."
But I didn't know that he was a vegetarian. The way that the two bartenders were talking about him, they're like, "Yeah, and he looked really good, so I guess being a vegetarian is doing wonders for him." Did you know that? Is it like
No,
a
I didn't
known
know he
thing?
was a
Okay.
vegetarian. No, I did not know that, but I like the story. I mean, I think it's so cool to just like be at that position in life and who you are to be like, "I want this," order something completely not on the menu and have every expectation that it's going to show up in front of you. And also the confidence that it's going to taste good too. I mean, like, it's not on the menu, right? That's a big roll of the dice, you know?
Maybe this is just me. If I'm going to a restaurant, I always look at the menu before I go. Do
Right.
you?
No, yeah, without a doubt.
That's like
Yeah.
part of the experience is like contemplating or like looking forward to whatever you're going to have when you get there.
Right.
But I always have to do the thing where I like pretend to look like, "Oh yeah, I don't have the menu memorized. I'll take a look at it."
What if it were Ringo? Do you think Ringo would have gotten what he asked for if it wasn't on the menu? I feel like there's a big discrepancy between the way people talk about Paul McCartney and the way people talk about Ringo. It's like they like Ringo, but he's not Paul. He's not like, held up on a pedestal as much as McCartney is.
Yeah, I could see maybe the chef coming out and saying, "I'm sorry, Mr. Starr." I could see him being like, but you have to still kind of give like a little bit of respect. He might say something like, "We've just run out," not "You're an idiot, it's not on the menu. May I suggest
Right.
one of these
Right.
items?"
Is Ringo a Sir? Is he Sir Ringo Starr?
I don't think he is.
Wow.
Oh, wait, of them, well, John is no longer with us,
Right. Neither is George.
and neither is George, but was George a sir?
Sir George Harrison. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where like Dame Judi Dench, and
Yeah.
it's like a part of their name, and then it's always Sir Paul McCartney. But I never hear anybody talk about like Sir George Harrison or Sir Ringo Starr. And if you had to pick one, why did McCartney get it?
Who gives it to you?
The Queen, right? I mean, like,
Does she?
I think so. Is there a nomination process?
We need to do more research on this.
Can anybody be nominated for it?
Are you looking this up right now?
Well, I'm pulling up something that I found funny over the holidays that I thought you would. I'm shocked you didn't see this. There was a tweet where somebody was like, Beatles albums are like, "I'm going to give you one of the most soaring emotional songs you've ever heard." And then the next track is like, "Do, do, do, Mr. Man in his silly hat went for a walk." It's like one of the
Oh, that's
funniest things
so
I've ever
that's
read.
that
Yeah.
sums them up.
Yeah. Yeah. I laughed so hard when I saw that. I was like, yeah, that's about right. Is it my turn to volley
It's
back?
it's your turn. Yep.
Okay. The most inspirational thing or moment or experience that you had over your holidays.
This is not sappy at all. This is actually much more to do with commercial Christmas than anything else. But so we were in the city for a couple days, and right before we left, I cleaned out my computer bag, and I was so happy because everything was organized. There was no junk in there. And I thought that I had like my little travel perfume in there, and we arrived and I realized I didn't have it. And for whatever reason, I was just like, I need I need my perfume. And I was also upset because I had just like started wearing this new one like a month prior, and I like loved it. And I think I was just excited to like wear it around my sisters. So I was like, but I'm in New York City. Like this should be really easy to find. Spoiler, I never found it. It was not easy to find, but it led us on that same night after dinner. We walked around, we saw the tree, and I went into Saks Fifth Avenue in New York City for the first time in my life. I'm sure I've been in a Saks Fifth Avenue before, like in a mall, you
Hmm.
know, because you usually have
Right.
to like walk through them from the
Right.
parking lot.
They're a corner store or something. One of
Yeah,
those big. Yeah. Yeah.
but I guess this is maybe just the one in New York City. It is like an art museum in there. It was a beautiful experience. I took lots of video, lots of photos. I was almost so overwhelmed by everything that I saw that I think that this is part of why I didn't like find my perfume, is because I was just like, okay, new agenda. Like, let's just enjoy this. Like, it's a museum. And it was also nice because it was just, I guess it was like the 22nd that we were there. And it was a weeknight, but it was pretty quiet because I think we went in like, pretty close to the end of the night. And now I feel like every time I go to the city, I want to go and just, their window displays are kind of legendary. And I know that I had stopped and admired them before, but I feel like that would be a really cool job just to like curate a high end department store.
Yeah. That's kind of special, though. I mean, you know,
Stumbled into
at
it.
the holidays too, and I mean, like that's a nice time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully yours is a little less shallow than mine. What was your most inspirational moment of the holidays?
One of the days in that stretch after Christmas, my son and I went for a hike just to get out. And we got about 4 or 5 different trails up and around here that we go to, but one of them is his favorite, and that was the one we wanted to go to because he hasn't been to it for a while. So we started walking down, and there's little bridges, and it's a great walking path. And we were noticing as we were walking, somebody must have gone through and hung very little tiny ornaments on many of the trees that line the trail. So it became kind of like this, can you find the next one? Can you find, one of those kind of things. So we were kind of spotting them, and each time we would see one, he would want to look at it. And it was really like, I don't know, it was just kind of special that like here you are in this path that like everybody shares, and we just as it were, we're the only ones there that morning. So we kind of had the whole place to ourselves, the whole trail to ourselves. So you could kind of like take your time and explore and see like the different places where they were hanging these ornaments, and it was cool. So maybe about halfway through, he was like, his favorite color is blue, and he was like, maybe we'll find a blue one. I'm like, yeah, maybe. And we kept looking and we kept looking, and it coming red and gold, and but we're not finding the blue one. And I'm just like, I think this is one of those boxes that was just red and gold, and that was it. And he's really like, but we gotta find one. And I'm just like, yeah, but it'll be okay if we don't. And it's still really nice to see this, right? And we got to be about 50 yards, 100 yards away from the end of the trail. And we're walking, and I'm kind of like looking up ahead at this point in time, and all of a sudden I hear him go, "There it is." And like we turn, and there's this one blue ornament that's just there, and he was just like over the moon that he found a blue one. And I'm not sure I should be admitting this or not that I think anybody who's listening to this actually hung the ornaments, but I was just like, "You want to take it?" And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm like, we're gonna take it and we're gonna take it home and we're gonna put it in an ornament box. And next year we'll get to pull it out and we'll remember that's where we got it from, and that'll be your special ornament. And so that's what we did. We packed it away, and then it's ready to go for next year, and that'll be there for him to hang on the tree next year when we get the tree up. So
That is so special.
yeah,
And
it was.
I'm glad you took it. I feel like it was meant for him.
I
He
felt
was
like it would
looking
be
for it.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like the people who hung those ornaments would be completely fine with
Yeah.
that.
They would
So
be
yeah,
thrilled.
yeah.
Oh, well, then you'll have to remind us next year
Yeah,
if he remembers it or if you
I know
remember
he
it.
he he may
I mean,
not.
I know that you will when you see it, but like, I think
Yeah,
it'll be a surprise when you open the box
yeah.
and see
You do
that.
tend to forget some ornaments. I will say that. Like there are things that you get as gifts, and then like you open it up a year later, like, oh right, that person got that for you. Yeah, so they are easy to forget. All right, this is your question now.
Okay.
I think.
What was your favorite gift that you gave or received? And this is not this is not a trick question. You don't have to mention what I got you or what you got me.
I do like what you got me. It actually is. I would put that up there as
Same.
yeah, as probably my favorite gift that I got this year. It was cool with Ryan, like as your son, like certain things that you gave him and whatnot that he's getting a kick out of it. But yours was really cool. You had gotten me. It was kind of I don't know why the term variety pack keeps coming to mind, but it was like this like trio of gifts that were all very much in the realm of in the kitchen and cooking. And if you're Italian, the importance and the significance of a wooden spoon. And I have wooden spoons that I bought years ago, but there's no significance to them, right? It was just something that you bought at the store, and they do their job. It's fine and whatnot. But I can remember as a kid, my mom's wooden spoon was like the thing was so old it looked like it was treated, like it looked like the wood was treated a certain way. And it's probably just because of the way it was used and whatnot, but it had that kind of like that weight to it and all that other stuff. And I've never really like been able to duplicate that. Like again, what I have has been fine, but you never really got to duplicate that. Well, I opened up your gift that you sent up, and there was a really great bottle of infused olive oil that I'm just tickled to have and incorporate. There was fresh homemade pasta, and then there was this wooden spoon, and it was like lifting up the Holy Grail. It was just like and a mopine too, if you know the terminology, and a dish towel that came with. But all of it was just like everything that was there was something I could use. But that spoon was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And the gravy that I had made for Christmas, I had used your spoon for it, and I was just like, it just felt right in the hand, like everything with it was just perfect. So it couldn't have been a more perfect complement of gifts and themed. It was great. It was perfect.
Wow. That spoon was definitely an afterthought. I
Sometimes those
almost
are the best ones, right?
Yeah, I had been wanting to get, I told you this, I had been wanting to get that Brightlands olive oil because I'm spammed with it all the time because it's like a very Instagrammy, influencery product. And I bought like a couple boxes of those small bottles. And I was like, oh, I'll keep a couple of these. I'll give a couple of these as gifts. My initial thought was like I was going to give them to my sisters. I ended up like keeping four of them for myself. So
Yeah.
I was going to give you like a few of them and just like have that be the gift. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just. And then when like,
I'll come back to you if it's if I like it. Are you get any more of that stuff?
but I felt like, no, what if I took this in the direction of just like making it a whole culinary package.
Yeah.
And I had the spoon in my hand and I put it back because I was like, this is going to be a pain to like fit in the box with because everything else was like kind of like square and the spoon was
Boxy
like,
or yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But then I went back and got it. So I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that was a hit.
Yeah.
So I guess I should share.
It's only right.
And I would have had it with me here tonight if I didn't just use it and it's in the dishwasher. But Steve has always been a great gift giver. If you follow me on Instagram, I feel like I bring up that book that you got me like all the time. It's like in all of my photos. I'm always talking about it. It truly is like one of my favorite things that I own. But this year, you got me this awesome mug that has a like a library, not a library card, but like a due date library card, like printed on it. And my favorite part of it is it's printed with all of these different like stamped dates. And I haven't like looked at every single one of them, but I love like looking at some of these random dates. And there's like a lot of them are like from like the 70s and the 80s, which, makes me think of my childhood and going to the library. Like, I don't know how the person made it, but it looks like realistic. It does not look like a manufactured library card. And then you also brought up the great point that it has a Seinfeld connection.
It does. It does. Tropic of, I was so tempted to write, somehow get in there.
To
like
face
Tropic
it.
Of, yeah, yeah. Don't make me say it. I'm not gonna go down the Bookman trail because that's something I can rattle off pretty quickly. But yeah, look that up if you haven't seen it. But yeah, it just felt like it fit you and your love of reading and writing and everything that comes with that interest level. It just felt like it was the right fit. So I'm glad. I'm really glad that you like that.
And drinking tea, a lot of tea.
Oh right, yeah, right. That goes without saying. All right, Christmas movie that you watched this year, either for the first time or for the first time in some time, that you either fell in love with or now have a different opinion on, depending upon how your viewing experience went with it.
I watched the movie Christmas in Connecticut over the break. It had been something I had been wanting to watch. Like I saw it on HBO and I was like, oh, I'm going to make this like a special Christmas night. I'm going to make cocoa and I'm going to watch this movie by myself. I'm going to be so happy. In addition to the mug you got me, my mother-in-law got me this like vintage like Santa mug that I made a big cup of cocoa in. And it kind of fell flat because when you hear the premise, it sounds like this movie is going to be fantastic. It's an old movie. Barbara Stanwyck stars in it. And the premise is that she is a magazine writer who has kind of like falsely been writing a column about being a homemaker. Mm-hmm. And then there's this like soldier who gets sent to stay with her at her house in Connecticut, which doesn't exist. And the head of the magazine kind of like forces her into like pretending that she is this, domestic woman, even though she's not. I don't know. I felt like it was kind of not as funny as it could have been. And anytime I watch a movie like that, I'm always like, I want to rewrite this. Yeah, it could be better. But have you seen that movie before?
No, I haven't. I did see your Instagram story where you had it up, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, I gotta talk with her about that because it is one that I've heard about. I know of it. I don't know about it, but I know of it. But it just feels like it's one of those like classics that doesn't necessarily get the love that some of the other more traditional Christmas movies get.
How about you?
I usually try to do White Christmas and It's a Wonderful Life every year. This year I did not get to White Christmas. I did watch It's a Wonderful Life. I love that. I can't find a single thing wrong about that movie. Be that as it may, a Christmas movie or
an Easter movie,
or as your mom would very clearly say to me to my face, it's definitely an all year movie. I watched a lot of Christmas Vacation this year. A lot of it because it just happens to be on every channel or on stream, whatever, and it's good background. And also when you're sick, it's like just something to have on. And I think this is something that I've always noticed, but I've never really like stopped to think about it. That in this movie, with the Griswolds and whatnot, that their families come to their house like 11 days before Christmas. It's when they arrive, both families, at the Griswold's house. And there was this moment where I was like, okay, that's like if my math is right, like that's like December 14th. Like I'm usually like in my head when I'm like, oh, it's December 14th. Sweet. I got 10 more days to get what I need to get done. Like you're not even thinking that Christmas is around the corner. And like here, these families were like coming into their homes and wreaking havoc and whatever. How does this not get talked about more often with this movie? Like so many great scenes and memorable moments and characters in there that were like, I mean, you got Julia Louis-Dreyfus who's in there and she plays a great role. And like nobody ever talks about this, that like, wait a second, like the Griswolds were just okay with their families showing up 11 days before Christmas. That just blows my mind. It doesn't change how I feel about the movie necessarily, but it gave me like, why is this not talked about more? Why is this not like a thing that people are just like, this doesn't happen? Like nobody shows up 11 days before Christmas and spends the entire stretch of time there. Like this doesn't happen.
You'll have to remind me, Clark's boss is part of it, so his work gets brought up. But like, are the kids going to school? To me, that's like you still have to like go to school and work and all that, like
Oh yeah,
for like
and
2 weeks before Christmas.
it's not clearly articulated. Like the kids are a part of it, but a lot of the stuff is in the evening. A lot of the moments are in the evening. It would appear that they all go shopping one day. They all leave to go out to go shopping. You could argue that it could be a Saturday, one of those kind of things. But no, like they arrive because there's an advent calendar that's kind of like a part of like setting up the shot for each, or setting up the scene. Each door opens up and whatever it is, and the first door that opens up is December the 14th, and that's when the families arrive. So you can conclude that that's when they got there. And I was just like, is this like a clicked list? You're watching this like, that ain't right, like that doesn't happen. So yeah,
I love your investigative skills.
tell you what, when you've lived on a diet of NyQuil and Advil cold and sinus for 2-3 weeks, like some strange senses come out. So yeah.
Okay, Steve, let's move away from Christmas. We had a good time, but it's time to set our sights on the new year. Why don't you give me your best prediction for something that you think might happen in 2023?
I think this is the year for LinkedIn.
Ooh, hot take.
I sense a groundswell in people who have. I don't want to contradict myself from one of our previous episodes talking about people leaving Twitter because of the changes. I just think a lot of times when pressure is applied in situations, that the whole like, it makes a diamond or whatever. Like, I think it's kind of like that. Like there's a pressure situation, and with that's going to come this offshoot of like maybe the connections that were made through Twitter and the way that people sold themselves as professionals and thought leaders and whatnot. While that was true, the environment of what Twitter has become, I think the place to do more of that and position yourself more like that, to build connections, is really through LinkedIn. And I was reading something the other day too about if you're using Twitter as a platform to share your thoughts and data and being a leader in your field, and people click on your profile, like they're not going to get necessarily the complete picture from a professional standpoint of who you are, because Twitter has like spheres of influence. You're going to have things that you talk about that aren't necessarily related to your industry. But with LinkedIn, it's immediately tied to your resume. So like, somebody who might be looking for somebody in your industry or whatever it is to bring somebody on into their company, like it's a quicker path forward in recruitment. And so I think this is the year for LinkedIn for people to shift away from using platforms like Twitter as a thought leadership piece and a way to build connections and community there. And I think LinkedIn is going to have a year where, you're going to see a lot of more volume of content and more of a shift to that platform. Or more of an investment in that platform.
Does LinkedIn do a lot of video content right now?
It does have the ability to upload. I know that they got into the story business maybe about 2 years ago, and then they pulled the plug on it because I think people were just like, what the hell is this? And that's because everybody was getting into the stories business. It does have the ability to upload video and content like that. But it's funny to me that like it seems like the platform is made for thoughts and sharing of ideas and experiences in text base. it's kind of a throwback in the sense of like what we grew up with Facebook, where it's like looking at Zuckerberg now, where he's like the only person who can write a freaking text-based post and get great engagement out of it
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook. It has that same kind of feel to it. I've noticed in the past when like I've shared content from the podcast on my LinkedIn, like sometimes I'll share a video upload that we've done, and then sometimes like I'll transcribe the transcript of what we say and like write that into some kind of like synopsis and and put it out there as like a complete thought. And it seems to get much more engagement because it's just the way I think people are groomed to use a platform like that. So I just get the sense that the environment of Twitter, albeit I don't think it's going away and I still think people will use it, I don't think it has, because of just the wildness of it all, I don't think it has that same sort of community vibe. Whereas I think on LinkedIn, you're able to follow certain people, you're able to connect with certain individuals and have your community of like-minded thinkers or people who work in that industry. And I think it's a good place to kind of position yourself in that role and advance your career path through that.
Very interesting. So the people of LinkedIn don't like my hand motions going like this doesn't get anyone's attention.
Landing the planes. And yeah, it is interesting. Like, it's funny. Like, I remember having a conversation with a guy that I know out in central New York a couple of years ago where he was talking about he'll write a blog post and he'll share the blog post on LinkedIn, and then he'll do like a bulleted version of like what was in the blog post, and then he'll write, and then 2 weeks later he'll write like a paragraph synopsis or a 3-sentence synopsis of like the main points of it and put it into like into some kind of organized thought as just a means of like testing out different formats of content delivery on LinkedIn. And what he was finding was like the more succinct you get, it seems like it has more of a and it doesn't mean like less words. It's just that the more succinct and clear you are with your thoughts, the more motion that it seems to kind of gather on the platform. But I like the concept of just experimenting with things. So yeah, sometimes like if I think the cut's really good of something that we've worked on, like I leave it as is. Sometimes I'm like, we have formulated thoughts here. Like let me transcribe these and work it into some sort of like overall thought and put it out and see what happens. So
I like that. It sounds like a more like dynamic Twitter, like Twitter with some extra benefits too, of like being able to be in front of your, like colleagues and peers. Maybe you'll have to update my LinkedIn profile for me.
Dust it off.
I don't even know if I know my login for it. Very interesting. Curveball. Okay.
I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I must admit, I do. I find it more valuable.
I was trying to think of something good, and I think I'm going to just try to mirror choosing the platform that I think we're going to see the most growth in 2023. And this answer shouldn't come as a surprise if you follow me, because I feel like I've already been going all in on this lately. But I'm going to give YouTube my endorsement, my pick. We've seen every platform, and this is why I was asking the question about video, push video on us this year. We've spoken at length about Instagram on the podcast, making us watch reels, encouraging us to create reels, and a lot of us have done it. I've grown to enjoy the craft of it, though I'm still annoyed at Instagram for like changing who they are. But I think even though TikTok has, grown tremendously, and Instagram is saying that video is their future and video is popping up in other places, YouTube is the place where video always existed. That's what the platform was built for. And now that these other platforms have kind of like been trying to incorporate video into their platforms that were built to be other things, YouTube is stepping up their game, and they're giving more support to creators. They have something called, if you don't use YouTube, they have something called Shorts, which is kind of like their version of Reels. And I'm excited. I'm excited as a creator to be on this new playground. I mean, I've had a channel, and we have a channel for the podcast that
Yes.
needs
Speaking of dusting things
needs
off,
to
right?
be dusted off.
Yeah.
I was actually, if this will give anyone encouragement, we'll link. I don't think we ever even linked to it in our.
It might be on the website. It might be
It
linked
might
off the website.
it might be on the website. I think I may actually have the commercial breakdown linked on the website. So I don't even
Oh,
know.
okay.
You may not even be able to find this, but we will link to our podcast page, YouTube page, in the show notes so you can check it out. I was in there recently and I found this like old video, and I swear, like, we look like we're kids. Like, that's how long we've been doing this. It was fun to watch, but who knows, maybe we will revitalize that. I mean, I felt like it was always kind of just like a, if we get to it, we'll throw something up,
Right.
and then we just kind of stop doing it. Now that I've like gotten used to creating videos, thank you Instagram, I'm excited to do it in the place where I feel like it's most suited.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I think it's a great prediction, and I would love to see that continue to happen. It just feels like there's so many, not even from a creator usage, but just the end user. Like there's just so many different avenues of YouTube to explore, and depending upon what you're using it for, and it's got power as like a search engine. I mean, there's just so many. I think that was always kind of the thing. Like behind Google, it's like the second most used search engine. And
Yeah.
yeah, I can say as a dad, I'm sure there's other parents who listen to this out there that like anytime I'm putting something together, I'm looking to see if there's a video about how it's done first before I'm following the directions that come with whatever we're assembling. So it's but that's obviously a personal use thing. But yeah, it's got a lot of different, I think, benefits as a creator, and that's awesome. So yeah, double down on it, right? It feels like every year we all say like, this is going to be the year video really takes off, and it's just like every year it just keeps continuing to multiply. So
Share your answers to our questions with us on social. Come say
Yeah.
hi. Now that we had this one Christmas reel that really took off,
yeah,
and I imagine that things are now going to quiet down now that Christmas is over. So come say hi to us on Instagram. Come like our YouTube page. If you show us some love, maybe we'll
create some specific YouTube content for you.
maybe
Yeah,
we'll
I
see.
like that. And let us be the last to wish you a happy new year.
Yes. Oh my
Nobody-
God. Guys, this is a Stephen King first. He has this real thing about you can't say Happy New Year after New Year. I mean, we didn't talk on New Year's Day, and I think we talked on like the 2nd, and I like specifically did not wish you a Happy New Year. I was just
Right.
like, hi, what's up?
Right. Matter of fact, I think the third thing you said in your string of texts was hello after you said your first two things to me.
I
So
always forget to say hello.
it's okay. It's fine. I know it's embedded. It's okay.
All right. I need to come up with something. I should have been
Google.
not paying attention to your answer. And I did pull up, when I initially thought of this idea, I pulled up this list of there are 400 wacky, wild, and totally fun questions to ask anyone. But some of these were like really weird, like, I don't know, there was a weird question about cheese. It was the way that it was phrased was
George.
was weird.
Cheese.
Oh yeah. This is not your question, by the way, but it was, what's the best type of cheese for you? Like,
We've been down this road before.
that's true. We have already had this conversation on the podcast.
Yeah. Sure, we can look it up somewhere. I thought you said
Anyway.
it was like spring-like or summer-like down there, and you have a
It
cardigan on
is.
today?
It is. Well, I felt like I had to still bring the winter vibes, and my windows are all open. I meant to close them, but I think at this time of night, we shouldn't hear too much whooshing. Did you hear that?
Yes, faintly.
Do you feel
But
like
not,
it?
no,
it
no,
I,
not.
I'm good. Okay.
It sounds like, because the one just went by as you started talking before, it sounds like a wave. It sounds very much like you're kind of right on the beach.
Let's
which
go
I know
with
you,
that.
You sort of are, right? I mean, you could be like, recording live from,
Yep.
my cabana. It's a podcast for creatives.
I like this. Yes.
Yeah.
If anyone hears anything, I'm
Right.
just sitting in my cabana, oceanside at 8:30 at night,
Right.
as I do in January.